to invite them to come to a Zoom if they don't know who you are.
Yeah, very
We
true.
tried to Zoom a few times, but the attendance just wasn't well attended.
Well, luckily I had good name recognition in Palo Alto, so that helps a little bit. And I'm sure you too, right? Very well known.
That's good. But it's really hard to reach out to people.
Yeah.
So in the last 8 days, what are we doing?
I've just been text messaging people.
Okay. I've been calling people.
Yeah, well, I text message them. People love text messaging because then you don't have to. They don't have to be free. You just text whenever.
I agree.
Yeah.
Ryan, you know Steven, right?
Yeah, I know Steven. Yeah.
Yeah, he did this.
Yeah, we did that mailer for him.
I didn't realize you had worked for Ro Khanna, Brian. I heard that from.
Yeah, I worked with him in the 2014 cycle, and then managed his campaign in the 2016 cycle.
So I used to live in his congressional district. I grew up in West San Jose.
Oh, really? In Berryessa?
Yeah.
Or not West San Jose, so West San Jose.
West San Jose. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Were you there in the 2016 race, or?
I think I was there in the primary, but then I moved to Palo Alto by the general.
Yeah.
I think by that point, so I don't mind telling you, I think the first time I voted for Mike, but then the second time I was like, okay, I'll just switch to.
Yeah.
Well,
And you saw, that you saw a huge swing. I mean, after that 2014 general election, I think the biggest thing that a lot of candidates do when they don't win is they disappear for 2 years, 4 years, whenever, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that we did with Ro is we made sure that we were active in 2015 after that campaign.
Yeah.
Involved with the soccer parks out in Santa Clara, involved with the creating a manufacturing initiative with San Jose, and especially with the Milpitas landfill, like being an advocate and front facing. And I think that's what the difference maker was. In 2016, you just saw a huge swing come towards us.
Well, and it's great that Ro has such a national presence now, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And that's what we want right now, right? Especially within Silicon Valley, we need someone at the table who understands tech policy, understands the future of work, understands the 21st century economy. Because folks right now, they're not talking about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Dawson, I think we probably going to have 2 minutes, like 7:40. We can start it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
I start video recording already, so it's everything we talk now is online, so it's live broadcasting. There's some people on the YouTube, they're listening.
Hello YouTube. Yes.
But it's okay. Maybe. Otto, can you show your face or the video to say hi to people?
I will be able to say hi probably about 15 minutes. I'm still in the car driving, so sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, you are very, very busy. He's always on the line.
But I could hear and I could talk, sure.
Mm-hmm. Good. Who has kids at home? Okay, Dawson, I turn the mic to you and you can start it already now.
All right. Okay. Yeah. First, I just want to say I've read a lot about everyone here over the past few days, especially. I've looked through everything, and it's really nice to be able to see you all here and hear you talk. I've been involved in some political activism and volunteering in the past. Just a quick introduction for me. I'm a high school junior at the Harker School in San Jose. And I've been on student council as student council president for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, 4 years. I've run a lot of fundraisers and events for these local community service initiatives. So yeah, I'm excited to be involved in this effort to support your campaigns today. So first, I can just share a little bit of our agenda for the evening. I think I can share my screen. Yep, so we are a little bit behind, but that's okay. So first we'll have Alec to make some opening remarks, and then Don will follow with some appreciation to our sponsors, expressing some gratitude. And then Brian will talk about what we can do in this final week to support our candidates. And then we'll actually hear some 5-minute speeches from each of our candidates. In the order, we'll go from Hung for Cupertino City Council to Gilbert for Foothill De Anza College Trustee to Stephen for Palo Alto City Council. And then we'll finish with Otto for Santa Clara County Supervisor. Throughout this process, if anybody has any questions for our candidates, feel free to drop them in the chat. You can send it to everyone, or you can just DM it to me. And from 8:20 to 8:30, if we have some leftover time before 8:30, we'll address those questions. Yeah, and then to finish off, we'll provide some resources for how you can follow up, how you can support these candidates in the final week, donation links, emails, and stuff like that. Okay, so without further ado, I think we can begin. So I'll stop screen sharing, and yeah, Alec, it's you.
Yeah, thank you, Dawson, for the opening, and welcome everyone. Thank you for the audience and the candidates for participating, and welcome to today's event, which is a gathering and conversation session between the voters in the Bay Area and several of our local political leaders, organized by the Asian American Forward PAC, whose main goal is to encourage political participation by Asian Americans through financial and strategic contributions, strengthen the network between our community members and their representatives, foster alliances between the private and public sectors, and as well as sharing ideas that would benefit our communities. My name is Alec Wang, like Dawson mentioned, and I'm excited to be part of organizing today's event to bring you these dialogues. When we talk about and think about politics, especially around election time, much of the spotlight is typically put on the national level activities like the presidential races, the Senate and House representatives, etc. But I'd like to argue that as an everyday resident, it's very much worthwhile paying more attention to our local activities and races in our own backyards, like city councils, mayors, school boards, supervisors, and many other roles where competent local leaders are the fabrics that bind our communities together, promoting meaningful changes and improvements that would affect the policies and the governance that would affect our daily lives. For example, topics like public safety, school quality and student success, the housing issues and homelessness, transportation and traffic. Those are the things that we constantly think about and talk to our neighbors about the most, probably, not partisan politics, which is why our organization, Asian American Forward, exists to foster more and better communication and mutual understanding between politicians and their constituencies. And on one hand, we look to give our community members better access to their representatives, amplify your voices and demands so they can better learn about your ideas and priorities. On the other hand, it is very encouraging to see more Asian Americans running for office in the communities we live in, strengthening the AAPI's political influence as the fastest growing ethnic group in the United States. So we are also here to give the candidates our strong support for their courage and efforts, either through financial contributions or other resources. In essence, we are building a grassroots system while pulling the resources from a wider national network. As a long-term Bay Area resident, it's my pleasure to introduce our panel of speakers tonight. In terms of the format, Dawson briefly mentioned already, I will start by introducing our 4 speakers and their candidacy in the election cycle, and we will leave the majority of the time to each of them to give us more detailed introduction to their backgrounds, policies, or other messages they would like to share. Then we'll have a Q&A session to communicate with the audience, so welcome to type in the chat. So with us tonight, we have Ms. Hong Wei, who is running for the Cupertino City Council. We have Mr. Gilbert Wang, who is running for the re-election of Foothill De Anza College Trustee. We have Mr. Stephen Lee, who is running for the Palo Alto City Council. last but not least, Mr. Otto Lee, who is running for the Santa Clara County Supervisor's role. I do have to say that I feel a special connection with the districts that our speakers tonight represent, because at some point over the past 15 years, I have personally lived in each of these districts, and I took classes in both Foothill and De Anza colleges during high school and right afterwards for college credits. So I really look forward to hearing our speakers and their visions for the areas that they look to represent. And without further ado, let's move on to the next section, and I will pass the microphone to Don. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. And I just want to give a little bit of appreciation to the local small business who has been support to today's event. And beside the online people, there's many people, they donate online, regardless of amount, but it's kind of the heart of people. Today's business supporters is Beijing Duck. Is also called Zest restaurant, and in the Cupertino, and also the second one is a WSB, and I think it's Shizhong is here. You can wave the hand to people. The next one is a Spring Light Education, and also one of my longtime friend, Excel Media Communication, Brian Parry there, and also Little Tree Montessori International School. And I think this we have only like 8 days to the election. People, most people here, I'm running fundraising for presidential candidate Andrew Yang, and also is now is working for the Humanity Forward PAC. The problem is Andrew is too busy and don't have a time to take care most local elections. But my personal experience in living in Silicon Valley for over 30 years, I know most candidates here. I know it's politics is all local. So it's I really want to take whatever the time I have, try to help people here. And also, it's Alex, Jason, and all the people here. We are all longtime friends. I try to bring people all together. Although this event is small, but I think it's last minute. If we can raise some money to support them to finish the last lap of the running, it's our pleasure to support them. I've been running for the local, the elected official, the position before, and like Gilbert, Conway, Brian, they all helped me to run. But I think it's that I do have some qualification problem, and it's pretty hard to run the public office. But today I decided I'll try to do whatever I can to help other people. And I just want to say thank you to all the small businesses. But when you elected, when you get into the office, don't forget the local small business. Thank you. That's my couple words to say thank you to all. Nelson, your turn.
Yeah, Brian can, I think, give us a little bit of information about the last stretch of our campaign, what we can do to support.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for allowing me to speak with you today. As you know, we are 8 days away from the election, and right now we're in the final stretch. The most important thing that we can do, I mean, right now we have 4 great candidates. And as everyone said, Alec to Don, most of the change and most of our politics happens at the local level. We need to make sure we elect good individuals that can advocate on our behalf in terms of city council, our county supervisors race, our community colleges, etc. What we can do, as you guys know, the most important thing when it comes to campaigns, voters and donors, during this final stretch, as we are closing down the books, getting our message out, one of the most critical things that you guys can do is help contribute to these candidates and help contribute to candidates who you guys are supporting. Secondly, right now we are looking at a get out the vote effort. as the other speaker said, there are nearly right now what we're looking, especially in California and in other parts of the country, 50% or so folks have already cast their ballot. We need to do our efforts to mobilize that other 50%. There's a lot of folks out there who don't realize that the election is happening in 8 days from now. So what you guys can do is support these candidates by knocking on doors, helping them out with lit dropping. Text messaging, as mentioned before, is super, super critical to help get out the vote. Making phone calls and reminding your friends and neighbors about the upcoming election. As we look at voter mobilization studies, the way you frame the messaging in terms of mobilizing voters is you want to encourage folks to make a plan to vote. What time are they voting in the morning? What time are they voting in the evening? Are they going to do it before work or after work? Just so that you could get that image in the voter's mind. So encourage your friends to vote, volunteer on the campaign, and please, please, please contribute to one of these candidates because everything you guys can do to help these candidates out will go a long way because they will be the best representatives for your district or your city.
All right, thank you, Brian, for your advice and your thoughts. So yeah, let's just jump right into our candidate speeches. So to start off, we have Hung Wei for student Cupertino City Council. Just a brief introduction from what I know. I think Hung Wei has been born and raised in Taiwan, and just like my family and all of our friends, she enjoys playing mahjong and bridge and watching old Chinese TV shows in her free time. So yeah, she'll share with us her experience and her plans for the future. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Hung.
Thank you, Dawson. Good evening, everyone. First, I really like to thank Asian American Forward organizers Dawson, Alec, and Donsang for providing us this platform. I am Hung Wei. I'm a first immigration Chinese American, and I came here to the US when I was really young at 23. But this is my country, and Cupertino is my home. I'm running for Cupertino City Council. And why? Because I love Cupertino, and Cupertino is not an island. We're part of Silicon Valley. So I'm so glad Gilbert is running for Filter de Anza, and Stephen is running for Palo Alto City Council, and Otto is running for Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, because we are all in this together, especially in this time of challenging time. What we need to do is, first, we need a partnership. As Dawson and Alex says really well, and so is Don, the local elections are the heart of our residents. This is local policies that goes toward each other and then build together. So my goals for Cupertino is, first, I have 11 years of experience as a school board with our local high school district. So I really have that governance experience to bring to Cupertino City Council. Our council have very new council members, and I believe my experience with good governance can improve how the council is run. Secondly, my heart is really for the residents. When I was a school board member, I was a very student-centered school board member, and I believe I will be a very resident-centered school member. You know, Silicon Valley has great promises, but we also have great challenges. Physical health with the COVID economic downturn, and our housing crisis, and our traffic and safety issues are all connected. So what I would like to do for Cupertino is really to build a platform to provide housing options for all levels of residents, for seniors, for young professionals, for working families, and especially for teachers who don't have the residents here. When we invite people who work in Cupertino or work around Cupertino to stay in Cupertino, they have that personal investment into Cupertino. Not only they would do more for what they're working for, but also they could support local businesses. You know, so you see everything's connected. Building housing options will support businesses and support schools. So what I would like to do is really build partnerships with the city, with the school district, with all the nonprofits in the city and in Silicon Valley to support each other. So I am really, really happy that Gilbert, Stephen, and Otto, when we all get elected, we can work together to serve our residents together and meet up all the challenges. Bring Silicon Valley into the 21st century. There is an ideology in Cupertino right now in the council that we want to stay put. We want to stay as we are because we are very prestigious and good community with great, excellent education. But my vision is we need to forward. We can have both. We can have our neighborhood integrity and keep our education excellence, but also provide housing options for people to live, stay, and enjoy Cupertino. So that is a challenge that Cupertino and a lot of Silicon Valley cities are facing. But if we work together, we can have both. We can preserve what we have, but also move forward with new energy and new vitality. And another thing is about environmental championship. That I believe every one of us, whenever we make policies, we need to keep our environmental challenges in our mind, in the center of our principles, because we are making decisions for the next 10, 20, 30 years, for our next generations to come. What we need to do is bring that vision into the future instead of standing back in the history and not moving forward. So my vision for Cupertino is fiscal health, good governance, housing options, and provide support for small businesses and environmental championship. And I believe that's 3 options, 3 goals that every one of here we're going to work together. So how do we do that? First is partnership. Nobody's standing alone. Cupertino is not standing alone. To have transit, we need to work with neighboring cities. We need to work with clean transit regionally. So it's not just a Cupertino issue. Traffic is not a Cupertino issue. Housing challenge is not a Cupertino issue. But every city needs to do its part to serve the needs that's coming to the 21st century. So I am encouraging all young people to be involved in politics, be part of the coming up, be part of the next generation's decisions. When we are elected, we're making decisions for you. So I'm inviting all the generations, new generations to come out and be part of the decision making. So one of my goals when I'm elected is to have a citizens advisory committee from all Cupertino, including young generations, including professionals, to get our planning together. Look at what Cupertino have. Our housing allocation in the next 8 years, 2023 to 2030, our RHNA allocation is going to come up with 6,220 units. Where are we going to place them? Map our city. Where are places close to work? Where are places close to transit? Where are places close to future transit? And what does Cupertino need and want? We take that into our own hands, do a citywide planning right now for the next 10 years. Then we work with other cities, Stephen and Otto and Gilbert, with education, with other cities to move Silicon Valley into the future together. So that is, I think that's what we have to do. That's what we need to do. And when I'm elected, that would be my mission. And personally, I want to share with my personal vision for my personal drive for wanting to be a Cupertino City Council person. I have 30 years residence in Cupertino and about 20 plus years of community volunteer. I know, I can boldly say I know almost every nonprofit in Cupertino and around, and I totally believe partnership, collaboration is the way to move forward. And I do have that bridging skills, and that will one unique quality I want to bring to Cupertino City Council is to bridge all the organizations together. City Council doesn't stand alone, school district don't stand alone, nonprofits don't stand alone. If we can all work together to serve the same residents, then we can pull our resources together we can really work for the benefits of not just Cupertino residents, but the region as a whole. So I'm going to leave time for the rest of the candidates. Thank you for providing the opportunity to share my vision and my passion with you.
Thank you, Hung. Yeah, very grateful for your thoughts. Yes. So next, we will have Gilbert Wong for the Fiddle De Anza College trustee. So a little bit I know about Gilbert is his parents are immigrants from China and Hong Kong, just like my parents, and he's watched Silicon Valley grow into our tech phenomenon of today throughout his career and his childhood. So I'm really excited to hear about Gilbert's vision. So I'll hand it to him.
Thank you very much, Dawson, for giving me the time to talk today, as well as Alec Wan for putting this together, and my good friend, Don Sun. I think this is a great forum for all four of us to be here. I know all three others very well, as I've endorsed Hung Wei for Cupertino City Council, a former high school board trustee that will bring the leadership forward in the city of Cupertino. Alder Lee, a former mayor like me in the city of Cupertino, and him in the city of Sunnyvale, running to be supervisor, which will be the second Asian American supervisor, and we know for sure will be one of the next Chinese American supervisor this November. And of course, a former commissioner, Stephen Lee, who is young and upcoming, and we really need that vibrant mentality on the council in Palo Alto. But here we are talking about all cities that have a huge Chinese American population. And being born and raised here in Santa Clara Valley, when I was growing up, it was all apricots and fruit trees, and it was just Highway 101 and Highway 17. And we didn't have all these freeways and tech companies, and we can see how much this valley has changed a lot. I first started my public service working for Organization of Chinese Americans, Silicon Valley chapter. It's a civil rights advocacy organization. I think I got that from my brother and sister that wanted to learn about our own culture, which growing up in East San Jose, being the only Chinese kid in the school, that half of this class was white and the other half was Mexican American, that I just felt that I was an American. The nearest Chinese community was in Oakland, Chinatown, where we did our grocery shopping every Friday evening, maybe catch a movie in San Francisco, Chinatown. And we have came such a long way to see all the suburban Chinese malls that has popped up in the city of Cupertino and Milpitas, that we don't have to go to the local Chinatowns to do our shopping. How I got started was Dr. Michael Chang, our first Chinese American mayor in Cupertino, asked me to run as commissioner as planning commission. And I was a little bit hesitant. I was very active in my daughter's school as a school site council. And when I submitted my name, the worst thing that could happen is that I got picked. And I did get picked for that partial term, and the rest is history. After 9 years on the city council, I have a huge passion for education. I could have followed the footsteps of Assembly Member Evan Lowe and go to Sacramento, but all politics are really local. And I believe that that community college was the best avenue for me, as I'm a very proud graduate of West Valley Community College with an AA degree in business before transferring to San Jose State University. And I was a really quiet introvert kid, and no one believes me that I was a quiet person. And truly, I just wasn't really involved in student government. I was a nerd. I wasn't really self-confident. And I think those 2 years at a community college campus really gave me time to discover myself. I was able to meet other Asian Americans, and especially overseas Chinese, as we call Huarun. When I was growing up, you know, it wasn't until I moved to Los Gatos and went to Los Gatos High School that on two hands, I can count all the Japanese and Chinese American friends that I had. And I met overseas Chinese at West Valley Community College from Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and they're overseas Chinese like me. And I got to know my self identity. And I think that community college gives you an opportunity of an in-between to discover yourself. And that's why I decided to run for Foothill De Anza Community College, which De Anza has one of the largest Asian American student population and one of the 10 best community colleges in the nation. I'm also elected onto the board of directors of the Association of Community College Trustees. It's a nationwide board of directors that advocates for policies in Washington, D.C. So I was very proud to be elected by my peers across the United States to be on that board. I also served as chair for 3 years on the Asian Pacific Islander and Native American caucus that advocates for Asian Americans and Native Americans, what is our needs, called APINA. Lastly, I really want to talk about how important to get people like Hung Wei, Otto Lee, Stephen Lee, and I elected into local office. Not only we make important public policy decisions regarding cities, counties, and schools, but also we can also reflect on our values as Chinese Americans and Asian Americans to make sure our voice is heard. It's very important to have not only first and second generation representation, but also to put some time and effort into those voluntary meetings. Yes, we do receive a very small stipend, but it's giving up our time away from our family to make sure that all Chinese Americans are being represented. And I think that's the most important message that I would say, is that we're very lucky to have donors like you out there who support qualified Chinese Americans to run for office. It's very important that on these last 8 days to get the message out on why we're the most qualified folks to represent all of you. And I think that, as Hung Wei said, is not only partnership with just the Chinese American community, but also other ethnicities, other nonprofits, other jurisdictions and districts, to make sure that we're cohesive, we're collaborative, and we're transparent. With the federal presidential elections getting really huge discourse, I think it's very important to set an example at the local level to show that Asian Americans and Chinese Americans can come together and be a strong voice for the whole community. So I really appreciate having this dialogue tonight, and looking forward to hearing other thoughts as well too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gilbert. We really appreciate it. Yes. Yes, I think definitely many of your ideas are super insightful and encouraging to Asian Americans, especially in community colleges. I think in remote learning, a lot of them are not having the opportunity to connect and maybe unite and speak out. So we really hope to provide more opportunities and see. So next we'll have Stephen Lee for Palo Alto City Council. Stephen has spent the past 17 years working to improve immigrant rights and gender equality in Palo Alto. So yeah, I'm excited to hear from Stephen. So,
well, thank you so much for having me. As Dawson mentioned, my name is Stephen Lee. I'm a progressive Democrat running for Palo Alto City Council. In a crowded race of 10, I'm one of only 3 candidates endorsed by the Democratic Party. And even though I'm running in a nonpartisan race, I think it's important that we elect leaders who have strong progressive democratic values, who are going to work on local issues and align them with the issues we're working on at the state and federal level. Folks who support folks like Andrew Yang, and who understand how interrelated all of our various positions and policies are to each other. A little bit about myself. I grew up down in West San Jose. I went to Lynbrook for high school and UC Davis for undergrad and Duke for law school. And it's fantastic to see Dawson being so involved at such a young age. That's really how I got involved. I was involved in the San Jose Youth Advisory Council when I was 15, built the first teen center in West San Jose. And ever since then, every year since then, I've been involved serving on local advisory boards. So as Dawson mentioned, I have 17 years of public service in local government. So I was 15 then, I'm now 32. So that's 17 years. And it's a wonderful way to get involved. I am a 3rd generation Chinese American. My father grew up in Michigan. His father came here from China to study engineering at MIT. My mother immigrated here for college to become a pharmacist. And my parents worked very hard and sacrificed a lot to give me a Cupertino education. And one of the reasons why I moved to Palo Alto was to give my future kids a similarly good public school education And I love the small town feel of Palo Alto and how you can walk down the streets, walk down the sidewalks, and know your neighbors. And it's a very great, tight-knit community. And I will say that, I want to echo what Gilbert said about representation. Representation matters so much. I know when I was growing up in San Jose, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me in leadership positions. One of the few people, though, who I did look up to was Secretary Norm Mineta, who was Secretary of Transportation when I was in 8th grade on 9/11. And being someone who grew up in San Jose, knowing that he was the former mayor of San Jose and one of the first API mayors of a large city was very inspirational to me and made me realize that I could similarly be involved and be a leader at the table, helping shape all of the very important policies we make. But luckily, since then, we've seen many, many more Asian Americans get involved in politics and in government. But we know that there's still so much work to be done. Here in Palo Alto, for instance, Asian Americans make up 35% of our community, but they don't make up 35% of our city council. So there's certainly a missing perspective in positions of power. I'm running for city council because I believe it's time for bold, progressive, and responsive leadership. And what do I mean by all of those things? In terms of bold leadership, Palo Alto is known as the birthplace of Silicon Valley. We have all of these amazingly innovative and courageous and forward-looking companies and entrepreneurs and people who are doing great work to address all of the various issues that we face as a society and as a globe. But too oftentimes our local government isn't as innovative or isn't as forward-looking. And so I want to bring some of that energy to City Hall to make sure that we are addressing head-on all of the various issues we face as a community. And in terms of progressive leadership, what do I mean by that? I'm a strong believer in the notion that local government can be an instrument of good, where we come together as a community, where we pull our collective voices and our collective power to make sure that no one gets left behind, no one gets taken advantage of, and that we work to make Palo Alto and make all of our communities not only a place that works for the majority or a place that works for those with privilege, but really communities that work for everyone, regardless of your background, regardless of what you look like, regardless of your income, and regardless of what your needs are. And so I hope to bring some of those progressive values to our city council to make Palo Alto a place that works for more people in our community. And in terms of responsiveness, as I alluded to earlier, in Palo Alto, we are known for this Palo Alto process where it seems to take us a lot longer to get anything done. It takes us more time, more money, and we always seem to end up with a half measure that doesn't really tackle the problem head on. And so I want to bring a new sense of energy, new blood, and a sense of urgency to tackle head on all of the issues we face as a community. And I want our council to be one that really rises to meet these challenges and is quicker to take action, all of the action we need to take. In particular, I think we need to get serious about addressing our housing crisis. In Palo Alto, we have a 3-to-1 jobs to housing imbalance. And for me, housing is so inextricably linked to most of the issues we care about as a community. So if we want to address racial and economic inequality, if we want to end homelessness, if we care about public safety, if we care about climate change and reducing traffic in our community, all of those things intersect with our inaction on housing at a local level. And so those are some of the issues that I want to address as a city council member. And I hope to have your support in this final week of the campaign. Anything you can do to, let your friends and neighbors who live in Palo Alto know that that you're supporting me and you're supporting other API candidates will go a very long way. It's going to be a very close race. And so every vote matters. Every 10, 15, 20 minutes you can chip in to get the word out, to let folks know who they should vote for will really go a long way. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate being with this amazing group of leaders and hopefully future leaders from the Asian American community.
All right, thank you, Stephen, for your dialogue. Yes, thank you. Finally, we'll have Otto Lee for the Santa Clara County Supervisor. Otto was a Hong Kong immigrant who has served in the U.S. military for 28 years with a Medal of Merit and is now working to solve some challenges in the Santa Clara community. So we'll go ahead and hear from him.
Hi, good evening. This is Otto Lee, and it's truly an honor to be speaking to all of you this evening, and also on the panel of these distinguished uh, public servant who's been serving and who's willing to continue to serve. Because after all, I always tell people, you don't do this for the money, because if you are, you're really bad at math. Okay, and especially those who are on the school board, a lot of them are doing it as a volunteer basis, and then we are all doing this simply for our community. And when we say that, is that as we all learn, if we are not at the table, we are on the menu. And that is so true in so many respects when it comes to public services, that a lot of times our community, many of the especially more recent immigrants who came in and do good work, study very hard, but at the end of the day, uh, really didn't understand the importance of the participating in the community. And when it comes time to, you could be a successful engineer like Wen Ho Lee for decades, being very senior, working for a government lab, and suddenly being accused as a Chinese spy. And it took him years to clear his name, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees. His life is completely changed. These are the type of issues that we still face, all Asians as a whole. And I think it's so important to even see that between Chinese virus, Wuhan virus, and Kung flu, it is absolutely well and alive. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are putting ourselves out to try to serve our community. My name is Otto Lee. I was born in Hong Kong. Originally came here when I was 15 years old, when Communist China was going to take over Hong Kong from the British colony. And we realized that, no, we won't want to revert back to the other loss of, the freedom of speech and human rights issues. And we certainly see that well in alive what happened this past July when China is exerting that type of totalitarian practices. And it reminds us why this fighting for freedom, this voting is really so sacred. Because having served 20 years in the military, in the Navy, I've served in Iraq, boots on the ground, escape a mortar attack by 90 feet. It really gives me a sense of appreciation of what we have here, and what freedom and what election really means. You can't have this type of freedom in China. As a matter of fact, you can't even have that freedom in most of the parts of this world in so many ways. And I think it is such a underappreciated importance. We kind of I feel like we're spoiled in America. Well, things are going well, and it doesn't matter where you vote, you get the same. No, it's absolutely wrong. I mean, since 1776, every vote matters, and that's what it really makes a difference. If you do not want people to make you eat what you eat at a restaurant, why would you let people shove an elected official to you, right? So in order to, and the thing is, we pay so much attention. To say sports, right? You might be a 49ers fan, you might be a baseball fan for the Giants, or you might be a Shark fan, right? We always root for our team. You want our team to win. At the end of the day, when your sport team wins, what do you actually get other than bragging rights, right? You actually get to pay more for the merchandise you're going to buy. Your baseball cap will cost more. Your jacket will cost double, right? Because you're a winning team. On the other hand, if your candidates win in the election with values and issues that matters most to you, what's going to happen is you're going to have better schools, you have better environment, you're going to have policies that actually matters to your life. Okay, so I think it is so important that people understand the importance of election. And I'm not just talking about national election. Everybody could talk about Biden and Trump all you want, right? And you vote for who you want. I have my candidate, definitely, which is Biden. But the more important candidates and races are actually the down ballot. So many people don't understand, that don't really appreciate. For example, the county. Most people don't understand the county does. Right, they understand. Okay, Congress, Congressman Ro Khanna, he does national issues, and then you understand your mayor, your city councilman, what they do in the school board for school. What does the county do? Right, it's like this middle thing that nobody really pays much attention to. There are only 5 supervisors for the whole county of 2 million people, all the way from Palo Alto to Gilroy, right? And if elected, I'll be a third Asian ever served there. Mike Honda was the first supervisor who was Asian descent. Second one was Shikawa, who unfortunately has to go to jail. when and left office. And as far as Chinese American, we've never really had any Chinese American ever been on this board. And in case you don't really understand, the county is the public safety net of our healthcare, of our mental health, and this whole thing about shelter in place, right? Everything shut down, that came from the county, right? It's about the health system, and the power of that is tremendous, right? But small business got hurt a lot, right, when we're sheltering in place. But at the same time, we needed to shelter in place, otherwise people get sick. So the role of the county is something that's very underappreciated, but it actually affects so many people. And even though I only represent 1/5 of the district, which is Milpitas, um, uh, North Sunnyvale, Berryessa, and Evergreen, every decision would matter for the entire county, which of course is what the Southern Valley is. So it is truly a historic moment that we have say potentially on this district, and I really am honored to be hopefully your representative in a week after the election. But more importantly is how we can get out of this COVID nightmare. We clearly have a lack of leadership from the national level, and with the weather changing, we know that this is practically the calm before the storm, right? For California, this is going to get way worse than better, and we are in the middle of opening or trying to open. So I think it is so important for us to recognize that
Put the seatbelt back on.
it's so important for us to recognize that the need of true public health decisions are made by science and by people who understand science. And we are actually living in a very good county. Santa Clara County is one of the counties that shut down the earliest, and has of course resulted in the least number in terms of percentages compared to many of the states or counties in Texas or the East Coast. And so that's one. And then two, of course, is how to allocate these important resources. The county's budget is $8.1 billion. We're facing a $500 million deficit. These are very serious challenges. Are we ready for the PPEs? Are we going to have logistically ready so that our nurses will be at the front line to defend this COVID wave? So these are the issues that I look forward to help solve on the county board, having served as a supply logistics officer, helping get critical parts of aircraft carriers, Virgin Gulf. I'm hoping to use some of those experience there as well. My other background, being a lawyer, is of course helpful in public service because, after all, as a public official, you are out there making laws, so able to understand these nuances, legal, is of course extremely useful. And of course, as Stephen Lee has just mentioned, housing is always a big issue, right? We have one of the most expensive places to live in the United States, and due to all those situations, this pandemic certainly exacerbated the situation, and the homelessness is really out of control at this point. Regarding, you see people living off by the highways, by the creek side. And is there really a solution to this? Yes, we do. And instead of just looking at long-term solutions, which I think county is able to do through Measure A, raising $950 million, how about temporary housing? Having lived in a container box, actually half of a container box, while I was in Iraq for a year, I certainly experienced these other alternative ways of living, because that's where to put the military. And it's got a roof, it's got a door that locks, it's got a windows, and it's got an AC unit that keeps the temperature temperate throughout the year. I think these are some of the cheaper but much quicker solutions we can bring to our county to help house people. Whether it's about tiny homes, whether it's talking about more ADUs, whether it's more shelters, all these are potential solutions that we could use to solve our county's problem. And I know I've spoken far too long because we do have so many problems that we have to fix, but I just want to implore on you how important this election really is for all of us. And I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to help solve some of these problems using some of my experiences in the military, in law, before the county. And again, thank you so much for being here tonight, because it shows that you care about the county. You care about what our future lies. I've got 3 daughters. I want to make sure their world is better than ours. But I don't think right now the opportunity is there for them as we had it, and we need to bring our country back to where it once was, and get out this COVID mess as soon as possible. Doing this safely and smartly. And again, thank you very much for all of you listening, and thanks to all my co-panelists or co-speakers here for their willingness to serve the public. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Otto, for your ideas. And a lot of these initiatives that you're proposing, I think we can all definitely focus on and get involved in, no matter where we stand in the community. So going forward, we have some questions that we can ask some of our speakers. So the first one I was going to ask Brian, as a campaign manager of your business, how does this really play into this election, and what kind of work are you doing exactly to promote these initiatives?
Yeah. So as you all may know, I have my own political consulting firm. We're a full media and communications provider. So what we do is our digital ads, mailers, text messaging, et cetera, and coming up with the overall strategy for campaigns, nonprofits, and corporations. So what we do is we help advise campaigns and candidates to help not only create their overall strategy as to how we penetrate the electorate, looking at the various types of voters we ought to reach out to, and coming up with different strategies and coming up with a full layout and plan for campaigns. But what we're looking at right now is as everyone's saying, I mean, all politics is local. When folks want to run a campaign, they need to reach out to voters directly, understand the electorate, understand the issues that are important to folks. When you look at this 2020 cycle, a lot of folks are seeing it as a different type of race, right? Just because you can't go out there and do your traditional type of campaigning, which has opened up the doors for a lot of campaigns to operate in a vacuum in terms of dropping off literature where other campaigns aren't, doing Zoom town halls versus in person. So right now, what you're seeing is just a shift in campaigns and candidates in terms of how they communicate to the overall electorate. But the fundamentals are there, and the fundamentals are the same.
Yes, thank you, Brian. I think another question we've had in the chat by Shu Xiao, which is one that I really have been thinking about a lot too. While throughout the entire nation, a lot of people are divided, I think, even the Asian community, Chinese Americans, because of this bipartisanship. As local candidates, what do you guys think are good ways to work towards more unity? Yes, Stephen, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start first. I want to push back a little bit on the premise of the question. I think one of the great things about America and about our community is that we can have strong opinions and strong disagreements on specific policies. And I don't want us to ever get into the situation where we're discouraging folks from expressing themselves because of the possibility that it will create division or controversy. Ending slavery was a very divisive issue in our country's history. And often the issues that push us forward as a country and that make us more free and more equal are going to be issues that are controversial. They're going to be things that cause us to have differences of opinion. But where I think we can move from here in is, while we have our strong disagreements, we shouldn't become disagreeable, right? I'm, whether you like it or not, I'm a very strong proponent on yes on Prop 16. Not everyone in the Chinese American community in Palo Alto agrees with that. Not everyone in my family agrees with that, but that's okay. My service as a human relations commissioner, as someone who grew up in this country, who has studied the social historical context in which these decisions are being made, tell me that yes on Prop 16 is the right thing to do. But that being said, I'm going to continue to engage and reach out to people who disagree with me on that. I'm on the WIS Chinese board here in Palo Alto. We have a huge Chinese American community, and we actually had a Zoom conversation about affirmative action and how does it intersect with things like Black Lives Matters and police reform. And, I think I convinced a few people, but I think having those discussions are very important, even if you don't end up convincing anyone. I think the discussion is more important than trying to, necessarily get us away from division or controversy, because that again is how we get towards progress.
And this is Hung Wei. I really want to follow with Stephen's conversation. We should not be afraid of different perspectives. Different opinions actually are great because it makes us think deeper, make us to understand each other. And so on Proposition 16, my position is we're not trying to persuade anyone, but we're trying to get to the roots of it. Why do you oppose it? Why do you support it? There's not a right or wrong, but it's where you stand. What's your priorities? What your beliefs are? What's your background? Can we respect each other? And I think the deeper we go to dig to the reasons, the whys, the deeper we can understand each other. But we have to have a base of respectful conversations, right? That is the base. And I think that's what Stephen and all of us want to bring to our community. Cupertino is also a community very divided on housing issues, on Proposition 16, on many, many fronts. But my goal and what I would love to do on the first thing in the next 4 years when I get elected is to breach that divide. That doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but that means we go deeper into what we feel, where we come from, and we are compassionate, and we listen to each other's opinions, and we can still say, we think this is how I'm going to vote for, but we respect each other. And I feel that the more I listen to people who don't agree with me, the more I learn, and that the more I can think deeper, and the more I can really make better decisions. So I agree with Stephen. Let's work and respect each other, but listen carefully. And I am not afraid of different perspectives, but I am afraid of people who only listen to themselves. If you belong to a WeChat group, if you don't belong to a Line group, if you belong to WhatsApp, and you just listen to the same conversation over and over again, you kind of brainwash yourself, then that hinders progress, that hinders communications. That's where we need to overcome. And I am very confident when I'm elected, that's one of my major goals, is to bridge the divide and bring different perspectives together so that we can find workable solutions. It's not perfect. We don't live in a perfect world, but once we can listen to each other and be real compassionate, I think we can work together toward the future.
I want to follow up with Hung Wei and Stephen is saying, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I think that, yes, there's two sides to a story. It could be Proposition 16 on affirmative action. It could be gay marriage on Proposition 8. It could be Black Lives Matters, or even the police. The Chinese American community has evolved so much. When we first have our new immigrants from Taiwan, who are very conservative, anti-communist, they're very Republican. Now we have a new wave of immigrants from mainland China who are very similar to our Taiwanese immigrants, who again, came here for a new country, for a better living for their children, and really want to make sure that their kids go to an excellent school. And that's something what my parents wanted to do when they came from Canton province and Hong Kong. But people do evolve. And I think that what's really scared is that this current administration has made a sense of friction. And sometimes friction does not work. I mean, it's not the American way. If you're a first generation or a third generation, we all have to get along together. I think it's very important to have strong communication, maybe on housing or marriage equality, and have the conversation in the Chinese language TV or in the newspaper, or unfortunately, even in social media. But unfortunately, we have seen in social media through WeChat, WhatsApp, Line, is that folks have been spreading rumors or false accusations, or folks who are in the same chat group that echoing the same message that may not be correct. And we as a society need to figure out how to make sure that the facts are heard correctly, to make sure that we hear two viewpoints, and whatever your values are, we go to the ballot box and we vote. And after that, one side will win, then the next side will win, the next side will win. But we have a peaceful transition of power every 4 years, maybe local, state, or federal. And I see that slowly eroding. And it doesn't matter if you're an alternative state like China, where they have no more, what do they call it? They have unlimited terms that they can serve, or in the United States where we have term limits. There has to be a strong value system, and we want to make sure that our democracy is very strong. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephen, Hung, and Gilbert for all your great answers. I just wanted to add, I think definitely this theme I've experienced in my own short time compared to all of you involvement in this politics. But I think in my family, we've also in the past disagreed on many policies and national ideas. But I think what I've learned in this past year in 2020, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, is that all these discussions are very powerful, and peaceful discussions, instead of arguments, are very helpful. But also just going out and experiencing things and talking with a lot of new people, for me, has been really helpful, instead of just trying to assert your point over others, in your small friend group or something like that. And also watching different news medias because of how divisive they are now. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So I think Yi posted a question. Yeah, just how can we get more Asian candidates, and how can we gather more support in the Asian community for just enthusiasm in politics, and how can we support these candidates?
So I'll go ahead and start. I think that it's very important to have that strong pipeline. I think that it's very important that you find the passion that you have. We just don't want to run a Chinese American or Asian American candidate just for the sake of running. You want to make sure that you're running because you have the right passion. It could be someone's building a house and their window overlooks your backyard, or it could be global climate change, that you have asthma and you can't breathe. It's these simple little things that gets the passion at the local level. You shouldn't be running because of your own ego. You shouldn't be running because you want to be president someday. You should really be running because you have that passion. And I think a lot of us who's on this panel did not really want to run. I think that we just wanted to get more involved in the community. And as we look for more people who wanted to run, they pointed the finger at me, and it says, "Me, you must be joking, not me." So that's how we got pulled in. So I think that we're always looking for folks to get involved in your local PTA, get involved in your local Chamber of Commerce, get involved in your local Rotary Club, or you see something wrong, contact your local official. It's usually by chance. It's very hard to find somebody like an Evan Lowe who was grown to be a public policy maker through his wonderful personality. That's once in a lifetime. But it's really about, making sure that you have the passion, you have the time. I see a lot of young people like Stephen Lee who are running, and I'm saying that I'm really happy. I wish I would have ran when I was 30 years old versus at 40 years old. When I first started getting involved in politics, but make sure that you have that steady financial background. Like I said, if it wasn't for small business owners, and I see both Teresa and her husband here helping us, because if it wasn't for folks who behind the scenes help us, we wouldn't be here very successfully. So I just say that we're always people and get involved in the community.
I have a question to Gilbert or to Otto, if I may.
Sure.
2020 is a heck of the year, and there's a lot of issues being debated. Some of my good friends opposing, opposing on the proposition that listed in California. With your experience, how long should we wait after the election that we go back to try to be civil or friend again with the people that voted against or voted the opposite what I have voted? How long should I wait? Couple months, 3 months, 6 months, or never go back again to that person? I want to hear from your experience as a politician, particularly you, Gilbert. I know you for quite a while, and I also know Otto Lee. Can you comment on that, or any other person in this Zoom meeting?
Want to go first, Otto?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I'll go ahead. So thank you for the question. Look, one thing I have to remind people is that we are friends and we should never, ever let politics divide our friendship and our family. And I say that very, emotionally when I found out that my parents wanted to vote for Trump very strongly, right? And that really blew me away about a month ago, how that changed, right? They never, frankly, they didn't really care about politics for a long time. It's the first time they asked, where's my ballot? And then I found out they wanted for Trump, and then find out the sources of news they've been reading, and I realized where they're getting their news and why they have these feelings. And I'm running my own race, obviously. I have my feelings, I want to explain to them, but sometimes I really can't necessarily change people's views, right? If they're strong, whether it's Prop 16, whether it's Trump versus Biden, or whatever those issues are. But it doesn't change the fact that those are my parents, or my relatives, or my sisters, or my neighbors. So answering your question is that I don't ever want any of those issues, and I make it very clear to people, we are friends first, but we are entitled to our opinion. The only time I don't want to do is ever to have to debate with people regarding the facts, because we are, of course, entitled to our opinions, but we're not entitled to our own set of facts. If they are trying to say that, COVID's no big deal, right? It'll come and go, people die, life goes on, it's just regular flu. To me, now we're debating facts. And I just stopped the discussion because it doesn't get us anywhere. Or global warming is, it's just a theory. It's not happening, right? I mean, so when it comes to issues that are facts, I don't want to debate them. I just pity them, and hopefully I could somehow get them educated through other means, through other videos, or the other ways to do this. And I think the education is something that really boils down to for us, is when you see that, let's say, college-educated individuals tend to vote for one candidate, and those who are not vote for another. It means a lot of things, but one of which, of course, is the skepticism that we learn in college, is that you don't necessarily believe things people tell you. You tend to be more skeptical and think more critically, because that's what we do in college is we learn how to think, right? To ask those questions. Not saying that people who have got PhD therefore could determine the candidate. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Plenty of folks who are very good at their professions are actually quite naive on other areas, like politics sometimes. So what I would say is that we should never let that ever divide us. And I would not wait like a week or 2 weeks before I talk to them. And I think we just stay away from the topic, just go back to your friendship, why you're friends with them, why your family, what, there are other things you can talk about. Because I really truly believe this is important, that our community should not be split. Because I do find that sometimes people use politics for their advantages, and by making these types of remarks or dividing issues, it helps strengthen their votes or their base or their fundraising. Okay, because it's sad to say, right? When you make a speech that is pretty moderate and vanilla, nobody gets really excited about it. But when you get to take a position that is more extreme, the media likes it because there's more viewership. But then next thing you know, the fundraising actually goes up, whether you're far left or far right. And I think that's unfortunate, because if you play that to get more views or get more excitement so that you could get your fundraising out there, you're not really trying to solve a problem.
you're actually perpetuating problem, making it worse. And I find that very non-distasteful. I think it's very dangerous because at the end of the day, our country, so United States of America, when you keep thinking about red states and blue states, we're going to fail. Because at the end of the day, it is the United States. And I think it's so important that we try to make sure that we for those who are not going to agree, it's okay. They don't have to agree with us, but we definitely need to take the higher road to make sure that our friendship and the basic decorum is maintained, and then never ever revert to violence, because that's exactly where it would go otherwise. And you're not really forwarding a cause, but now the social unrest and all that is going to get things covered.
I'm going to quickly follow up on that, and I think that Otto is right on target. Politics is a contact sport. You think that it's, you sit up there as like a student council. It's not. The fun part is really canvassing and lobbying and fundraising money. That's the easy part. The hardest part is sitting up on the dais and making those decisions. And politics is a contact sport like football, because you have two sides, and I try to keep both sides happy, and instead I get both sides really, really upset at me. So you have to choose a side, A or B. You can't help both A and B. I noticed that I have more unhappy people if I try to force them into a compromise. It's better to make that hard decision, even though I don't like to pick a side, but you have to in order to keep people happy, and you have to be strategic at that sport of football to make sure that you're transparent and tell them why you made that decision. Because the worst thing is that you can make a decision and don't give a reason why. So I have a lot of people who respect me for voting maybe B, but A said, because you state these 3 strong points, I'm okay with that. The other thing I wanted to say is that the best way to get to know people, in my opinion, is that have lunch with them or have a meal. That's what brings people together, is have a meal and get to know them. There was this friend who wanted me to meet a person that I strongly disagree with, and we refused to get together for coffee or for a meal. And then finally we got together and we found out that we're 2 human beings. I mean, we both have children. We're both Chinese Americans. We're both immigrant families. And as we got to know each other, then we were able to talk about some of those other so-called sensitive topics. And knowing that she knows where I came from, I know what's her position, and eventually we were able to compromise at the table. But then when we go into the arena of the city council chambers or the school board chambers, is like me and her became 2 opposite people. But at least when I'm inside the chambers, I'm able to understand where she and her friends come from. Is it very difficult to understand? But it's a very frustrating experience. But you just have to be very, very patient, listen, which is very important, and then come together. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Nice seeing all of you here.
So can I pitch in a little bit? This is Hong Wei. I would love to answer that question. So to be a leader what is leadership? Leadership is not that you're in charge. It's you are taking care of the people in your charge. If you come in with that concept that you are a servant leadership, then you listen. What do servants do? You listen, you obey. Doesn't mean you obey on the decision, but you listen to them. You really step into the shoes. And you also want to be a courageous leader, like what Gilbert says. When it comes to decision making, you make your decision, but you make it clearly why you make that decision. And I'll give you that example. When I was a school board member, we had this lighting field. We put fields lighting in Monte Vista, Lynbrook, and Homestead High School. Monte Vista, Lynbrook neighborhood was very mad at us. They actually sued us. But in every court hearing, I would sit there and I would chat with the people who sued us, because I understand where they come from and understand why they could be home watching TV, have a good time. Why are they here? So even though we have different decisions. I made a decision because for the benefit of generation of students, and they made a decision because they live right next to the school. They really did not like that, but we agreed to disagree. And I stayed behind every time. I give them a hug. I told them, I totally understand why you're here. So I think we can be servant leadership and courageous leadership at the same time. And that's what the leaders do. We are servant, but we're also courageous in making different decisions. And we do not wait until a month, 2 months later to make up. I'm encountering very negative campaign right now. And once we're elected, if my opponent is elected, I am not going to take his negative campaign as a personal attack. It's a campaign tactic, right? But once we're elected, we need to work together for the benefit of residents. So we're issue-based. We make decisions on each issue, not because we are personally don't disagree with each other. And I will call him by his first name, call her by her first name, because we're colleagues. Our goal is the same. So I think I will agree with Otto. We're friends, but we can have different opinions. We can make different decisions, but that's not going to affect our personal relationship. So I'm hoping that we can separate political or decision-making with our personal relationship. And I totally agree with Gilbert. When you sit down and get to know somebody with a smile in your face, it's very hard for them to really slap you in the face. So that servant leadership and courageous leadership, I think that's what we as leaders in the community need to have.
All right, I think we've had a fantastic conversation. We hear a lot of different opinions, very valuable from everybody. So to wrap up, I'll just share some resources and a quick video to finish it off. Among all these opportunities that we have to raise awareness and get involved, we have a quick video here from Andrew Yang about voting.
Can hear.
I may not be sharing sound. All right.
Hello, I'm Andrew Yang. The truth is that Asian Americans and voting have not always gone hand in hand. Our turnout has not been as high as it's been for other groups. And you know what? I think that's awful. We need to change that. So click there to pledge to vote, and let's make sure that we knock this out of the park and vote more than anyone else. Hello, I'm Andrew Yang. The truth is...
Yeah, so I think the general message is a lot of Asian Americans in the community, our turnout is just not very high. So the very simple link for all of the different offices. My parents have just gotten their ballots this week and it's super easy process. So register to vote.ca.gov. And finally, here are just some resources for all their speakers today and their websites, and also general information for AsianAmericanForward.com. You can contact me or Don at our emails down here. And this is, I made a little shortened link, tiny.cc/donate-AA-forward to donate to Asian American Forward. So yeah, we thank everyone for their participation today and all the fantastic opinions we got and ideas for initiatives and how to get involved. So Don, if you have anything else to add, or Alec.
Yes, and just show me the sponsorship page.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, thank you. I saw Jerry and Teresa just come in a little bit late. I know they are very busy, but I truly appreciate their consistent support of Asian American in the Silicon Valley. And also, I like to say thank you, Alex Brand, and they also is the major donors, just contribute to all the candidate here. And tomorrow we're going to send money to the candidate today. Truly appreciate. It's so good to have you here, and also we have this video edited, and also we're going to post on the YouTube, and make sure we have a cross final line in 8 days. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to everyone who is running.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you all.
Good luck. Good luck to every candidate.
Yeah.
Thank
All the
you.
way,
Good night.
Otto, Stephen,
thank you
and
for-
Gilbert.
Important week ahead.
加油加油！
Yeah.
加油加油 8 more days to go.
All right.
We can see the victory. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Great job, you guys. Thank you so much for organizing. Thank you, Don. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Otto.
No problem.
Hey, good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah. Thank you. Xin lỗi Don. Bye bye. Thank you, Jerry.
OK，拜拜。
Bye. Dawson, Alex. Thank you.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Don.
Talk
Thank
to you
for the
later.
opportunity.
Thank you, Dawson. Great,
Yeah.
great moderating.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You too. You too. Yes.
Bye, Michael.
Bye, good evening.
Bye, Michael. Okay, bye.